I don't need that reported on the Star.
I will now call to order the City County Council meeting for Monday, October 9, 2017. We'll begin our meeting with a prayer and pledge of allegiance led by Councilor Evans.
Welcome, everyone, to tonight's Indianapolis City County Council meeting on this day, Monday, October 9th, 2017. I invite you to join me in prayer. However, if you are of a different faith or no faith, please pray or give a moment of silence in your own way, in accordance to your beliefs. Please bow your heads and open your hearts. Our Father in heaven, inspire and renew those called to serve, that whether seen or unseen, we know that they remain grounded in your care and love. Remind them, when overwhelmed and discouraged, that arm in arm and heart to heart, there is grace enough here, wisdom enough here, and compassion enough here to do what is next to do. Encourage us step by step to trust the path that is before us. Father, we cry out to you. Heal our souls from the scourge of violence. Endow us with the courage to step down from the pulpits and out from behind our desks to seek the peace of this city. In the coming days and weeks, as our leaders debate solutions, Lord, we ask that you grant us the voice to speak truth to power and demonstrate sacrificial compassion to the hurting. God, we pray for clarity and sanity. We pray in your name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilors, we're waiting on the screen. One moment, please. Madam Clerk. But this screen isn't.
Councilors can, Casey Road, I see the Y on there, the green on there,
Okay.
and I'll work on this.
Okay. So the first item on our agenda, if you could select the green button to indicate your attendance, it's not going to light up on this screen, but the clerk will be able to record your presence. And we have 23 members present this evening. The next item on our agenda is introduction of guests and visitors. Councilor McQuillan.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to acknowledge and recognize a Center Township resident. His name is Mr. Lincoln Wallace. He's very active in things going on in Center Township, especially the CASA Child Advocates Program. Mr. Lincoln Wallace.
Additional introductions. Councilor Maury.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to take time to thank Pam Duhamel for coming and the rest of law enforcement, first responders, and everybody that came here today. IFD, thank you for coming.
Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to acknowledge Ahmed Young. He will be leaving the city soon to start at Indianapolis Public Schools as Chief of Staff and General Counsel. Ahmed is extremely committed to the kids of our community, making sure that they achieve their full potential. So I want to thank him for his service and acknowledge him here tonight.
Additional introductions? The next item on our agenda is the official communications. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam President. Ladies and gentlemen, you are hereby notified that regular meetings of the City County Council and Police, Fire, and Solid Waste Collection Special Service District Councils will be held in the City County Building in the council chambers on Monday, October 9th at 7 p.m., the purposes of such meetings being to conduct any and all business that may properly come before regular meetings of the councils. Respectfully, Maggie A. Lewis, President, City County Council. Ladies and gentlemen, pursuant to the laws of the state of Indiana, I cause to be published in the Court and Commercial Record and in the Indianapolis Star on Monday, October 2nd, 2017, a copy of a notice of public hearing on proposal number 267, 2017, said hearing to be held on Monday, October 23rd at 5:30 p.m. in room 260 of the City County Building. Respectfully, Natrina DeBow, Clerk of the City County Council. Ladies and gentlemen, I have approved with my signature and delivered this day to the Clerk of the City County Council, Natrina DeBow, the following ordinances: General Ordinance Number 52, Special Ordinance Number 5, and General Resolution Numbers 12 and 13. Joseph H. Hogsett, Mayor. Madam President, this concludes the official communications.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The next item on our agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Do I have consent? Consent. The next item on our agenda is the approval of the journals for September 25th, 2017. Do I have consent? Consent. We do not have any petitions, memorials, special resolutions, or council resolutions. The next item on our agenda is introductions of proposals. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam President. Proposal numbers 276 and 277, both referred to the Metropolitan Economic Development Committee. Proposal number 276, introduced by Councilors Miller and Osley, approves the Metropolitan Development Commission's resolution terminating the Tibbs Avenue redevelopment area and the allocation area. Proposal number 277, introduced by Councilor Miller, approves the statement of benefits of Eli Lilly and Company, an applicant for tax abatement for property located in an economic revitalization area. Proposal numbers 278 through 283, all referred to the Public Safety and Criminal Justice Committee. Proposal numbers 278 through 282, all introduced by Councilor Robinson. Proposal number 278 approves additional appropriations and a transfer totaling $2,950,000 in the 2017 budget of the Marion Superior Court, guardian ad litem, jury pay, county general, and court equipment funds to cover the cost of guardian ad litem services, jury pay, interpreter services, drug and medical services, information technology, and other contractual services. Proposal number 279 approves a transfer of $76,000 in the 2017 budget of the Marion County Coroner County General Fund to support the cost of death investigation supplies and costs related to performing autopsies, which include pathology services, toxicology testing, and histology studies. Proposal number 280 approves an additional appropriation of $950,000 and reductions of $250,000 in the 2017 budget of the Marion County Community Corrections Agency, Home Detention, and County General Funds to cover the increased cost of electronic monitoring due to an increased number of clients placed on electronic monitoring by the Marion Superior Court. Proposal number 281 approves a transfer of $160,000 in the 2017 budget of the Marion County Forensic Services Agency, County General Fund, to provide training for new and existing staff, allowing forensic casework to start 6 months earlier. Proposal number 282 approves an additional appropriation of $1,360,000 in the 2017 budget of the Indianapolis Fire Department, other federal grants, DPS fund, to cover compensation to personnel and participating agencies for expenses incurred during deployment in support of the National Urban Search and Rescue Response System Cooperative Agreement. Proposal number 283 introduced by Counselor Adamson, referred to the Public Works Committee, approves transfers totaling $1,073,000 in the 2017 budget of the Department of Public Works, Consolidated County General, Parks General, and Solid Waste Collection General funds to address increased repair and maintenance costs, offset increased mowing expenses, and replace capital equipment. Proposal number 284, introduced by Councilors Osley and Lewis, referred to the Metropolitan Economic Development Committee, appoints Keela Johnson to the Citizens Advisory Committee for Washington Township Comprehensive Plan. Proposal number 285, introduced by Councilors Adamson, Scales, Oliver, and Miller, referred to the Community Affairs and Education Committee, urges the Indiana General Assembly to support comprehensive redistricting reform. Proposal number 292, introduced by Councilors Osley and Lewis, referred to the Metropolitan and Economic Development Committee, appoints Erica Henshaw to the Citizens Advisory Committee for Warren Township Comprehensive Plan. And Proposal 293, introduced by Councilors Lewis, Robinson, Osley, Feaster, and Evans, referred to the Public Safety and Criminal Justice Committee, appoints Ronald Covington Sr. to the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department Merit Board. Madam President, this concludes the introduction of proposals.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The next item on our agenda is special orders priority business. Proposals number 286 through 291 are all rezoning ordinances certified for approval by the Metropolitan Development Commission on September 29th, 2017. If no councilors wishes to call down any of those proposals for reconsideration, they will pass into law. Does anyone wish to call down any of those proposals? Seeing none, they will pass into law. The next item on our agenda is special orders public hearing. Proposal number 266, refer to Admin and Finance Committee. Chairman Simpson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Proposal 266, referred to the Admin and Finance Committee, authorize the city to advance refund pilot revenue bonds which were previously issued to finance the construction, renovation, rehabilitation, and installation of certain improvements to the public ways, including roads, streets, alleys, trails, sidewalks, and other public facility in amount not to exceed $180 million, along with association transaction costs and reserve fund surety if necessary. Madam President, I would like to have Sarah Ridden, the bond director, to come up and explain exactly to the people here what the pilot program is. If made, then I'll make the motion.
Can you make your motion, then we'll
Okay.
ask her.
So move.
Thank you. The motion been properly moved and seconded. Madam Director.
Thank you, Madam President. Members of the council, I'm Sarah Reardon, the director of the Bond Bank. Tonight we're here to ask that you approve the refunding or the advance refunding of about $160 million of outstanding bonds. These bonds were used to pay for transportation infrastructure and sidewalks and things of that nature. These bonds were issued back in 2010, and the call date isn't until 2020, but we can refund these in advance at a lower interest rate and achieve some significant savings. Just to remind you, for those of you who weren't part of the council in 2010, the debt service on these bonds is paid with what's known as a pilot, a payment in lieu of taxes that's made by Citizens Water Authority to the city on an annual basis in exchange for our transfer of the water company assets to them back in 2010, 2011. A portion of that pilot payment that's made annually is used to fund the debt service on these bonds. Not all of it, but some of it. And what we're simply doing here is we're arranging to make lower debt service payments over the course of the bonds in order to achieve some savings.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So is there comments from councilors? You're going to have to raise your hand if you have questions, concerns, comments. Any questions from councilors? Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to proposal number 266?
Larry Vaughn, please, prisonplanet.com. I remember these bonds when they were issued, and now they have not been paid off or retired, and they're entering to replenish the bonds again so they can get that money back on the books again, and we still have to continue to pay dividends. But what the bonds were for is to do infrastructure work, and we can see how that works. The way it works is they pave a street in August, and in January, it needs to be repaved again. So they're using substandard material all of the curbs and sidewalks they put in only have a life expectancy of about 5 years before they're tearing those up again. You can notice it. Our streets have been blocked off, and our travel have really been restricted by bike lanes and other obstacles that they place in the right-of-way that don't pay any taxes, whatever. So I just think that these bonds are being replenished tonight so that they can continue in the same way that they've done in the past to have substandard infrastructure done, and the cost saving goes back to, I don't know where it goes, we don't know where it goes, but it's going somewhere. So I think they should put a little more attention in the material they're using to pave our streets and to actually do our curbs and sidewalks. And I think that the Public Works Department ought to have a more part in that. I know I've seen a crew of the public workers out, and I said, well, what's this private contractor doing here when the Department of Public Works has their own men that can be doing these jobs and saving us a great expense? So we need to look into that, and we just most of all need to look into the material they're using for paving, because it lasts about 6 months. That's not infrastructure.
Thank you.
Failure.
Mr. Vice President.
Thank you, Madam President. I have a question for our CFO here. My understanding is that the refinancing of these bonds will yield a $4 million a year savings that we can then turn around for various programming in the city. Is that correct?
Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, essentially that's correct. The result, if we choose this method, will generate savings for 3 or 4 years. That money will then be deposited in with the controller in the city funds, and then it can be appropriated for just about any use.
Thank you.
Councilor Fanning.
Thank you, Madam President. I also had a question for the controller. Is the total savings recognized by the city over that 3 to 4 year period, is that in the neighborhood of 11+ million, do I remember? Or could you just clarify the total amount of savings?
Are you wanting the controller
Or Director Reardon, either way.
Thank you, I'd be happy to. So our bankers estimate that we will achieve somewhere between an $11 and $14 million in savings. And we can structure that in a number of different ways. We could just lower the debt service payment every year until the bonds are completely paid off, or we can lower it a bit more in the first few years and then pay it off at a level debt service after that. But under no circumstances will we ever pay debt service greater than what we're paying now on an annual basis. So that comes down to the structuring, and the specific amount of the savings really depends on how the market is on the day that we take the bonds to market for pricing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Additional questions from councilors? Anyone in the audience, anyone else in the audience wish to speak to proposal number 266? Councilors, in order for us to capture your vote, we're going to ask that you select your button, but also raise your hand for the folks in the audience because the screen still isn't working. So all those in favor signify by selecting the green button and raising your hand. Got it, Madam Clerk? Thank you. All those opposed? Wait a minute. All those opposed, select your red button and raise your hand. The motion carries 23-0. The next item on our agenda is special orders, unfinished business. There's no business there. We'll proceed to special orders, final adoption. Proposal number 201, refer to Metropolitan and Economic Development Committee. Chairman Osili.
Thank you, Madam President. Proposal number 201, 2017 amends portions of the code regarding the definitions, use-specific standards, and regulations that address farmers markets, commercial vehicles, and recreational vehicles in order to aid zoning enforcement. Emily Mack, DMD Director, stated in April 2016 that the city had implemented an Indy rezone project, a comprehensive update of the city's zoning ordinances. The items that needed to be modified in it were the following: an overview of changes, the farmers market, which is farmers market and transient merchants market, commercial vehicles and recreational vehicles. The farmers market modifications had to do with the definition of the farmers market. The commercial vehicle changes revised the definition of commercial vehicles to set a weight limit and established a cargo holder minimum size for commercial trailers. And the recreational vehicle changes provided a definition of those recreational vehicles and amended them to indicate that larger trailers must be loaded with recreational items. And use specific standards for living in a recreational vehicle were also amended to match health code standards. The initial changes were requested by the Department of Business and Neighborhood Services and aimed at improving the enforcement of certain regulations. An amendment was offered, removing the term farmers market and replacing with and defining outdoor seasonal produce sales. Councilor Adamson moved, seconded by Councilor Fanning, to amend Proposal 201, and this motion was carried by a vote of 7-0. And Councilor Adamson moved, seconded by Councilor Robinson, to send the Proposal 201 to the full council as amended, with a due pass as amended recommendation, and the motion carried by a vote of 7-0. Madam President, I so move.
The motion has been properly moved and seconded. Are there comments from councilors? Again, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor signify by selecting the green button and raising your hand. Thank you. Those opposed, same sign. The motion carries 23-0. The next item on our agenda is proposal number 225. We will take them maybe a different order than what I originally said. Yeah, that's what I told you guys, but that's not what I have on my agenda. So we'll start with, which order? Thank you. We'll start with the Parks Department budget, then Public Safety, Public Works, Metro, Admin, and Finance. Chairman Oliver.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, on Thursday, September 21, the Parks Committee met to consider proposal number 225, which was presented to adopt the City of Indianapolis Parks presentation, which we moved to accept its adoption. We heard comments during the review and analysis. At this particular meeting, I asked for any comments. There were no comments from the chair. It was moved by Councilor Simpson, second by Councilor McHenry, to adopt this and send it to the full council for adoption. That was voted by a vote of 6-0, Madam Chair. I so move for its adoption.
Thank you, Madam President. We met as the Public Safety Committee on 9/27/2017 to hear the review and analysis of the budget, and with the due pass of 6-3, with Kreider, Feaster, and Wester casting the no votes, the proposal did pass out of committee.
Thank you. Vice President Adamson.
Thank you, Madam President. Proposal number 225 adopts the annual budget for the City of Indianapolis and Marion County in 2018 Public Works portion only. Councilor Gray moves, seconded by Councilor Oasley, to send proposal 225 to the full council with a due pass recommendation, and that motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you. Chairman Oasley.
Thank you, Madam President. After presentations were made by Kate Sweeney Bell, Marion County Recorder Deborah Jenkins, and Marion County Surveyor Joseph P. Connor, Marion County Assessor, no amendments were made to the introduced 2018 budget. Councilor Robinson moved, seconded by Councilor Adamson, to send proposal 225, 2017 to the full council with a due pass recommendation. The motion carried by a vote of 6-1, with Councilor Kreider casting the negative vote. Madam President, I so move.
Thank you. Chairman Simpson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Proposal 225, the annual budget of the city, county for 2018 was heard in the Administration and Finance Committee on Tuesday, October the 3rd. The committee held 5 separate budget hearings, presentation from various agencies, department. While the committee would like to see funding increase from some of the agency now, especially in the area of salaries for some of the lowest paid employees, eliminating the structural deficit seemed to be more of an immediate priority, and understanding that we can tackle that later on some other time in the near future. There was one amendment. There were 2 small technical amendments. were made with regarding to the appropriation of the city sink fund, sanitary district bond in section 1.02, and in section 4.105 regarding distribution of special purpose tax revenue for Indigo. The proposal passed out of committee by a vote of 7-1. Madam President, I so move.
The motion has been properly moved and seconded. Comments from councilors? Councilor McQuillan.
Thank you, Madam President. I have a motion to amend proposal number 225. All councilors should find it on their desks. It's come to my attention that the mayor has just called for a full audit of the Marion County Sheriff's Department. Now, this is a request that was originally made by members of the Republican Caucus during committee budget hearings. As a result of that request for an audit, I believe it's both premature and financially irresponsible to approve the sheriff's budget in its current form. I believe we should remove the Sheriff's Department's 2018 budget until the results of this audit have been completed. Accordingly, my proposed motion to amend removes the Sheriff's 2018 budget and adjusts the summaries of the appropriations, and Madam President, I so move.
The motion has been properly moved and seconded. Are there comments regarding the amendment? Councilor McQuillan.
Thank you, Madam President. Rather than read all the dozens of strike-throughs on this amendment in the interest of time that's in front of all of you, let me just say again that the result of this amendment basically zeroes out the sheriff's budget for 2018. That means that we as a body would have to come back in the next couple of months to reappropriate the sheriff department's budget once the result of the department-wide audit is done, is completed. So on that, I urge all councilors to join me in this, I think, financially responsible motion to ensure that we wisely spend the taxpayers' dollars. Thank you.
Vice President Adamson.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm curious, my understanding is this essentially defunds the Sheriff's Department, and I'm curious whether or not that constitutional office is legally allowed to be defunded by this body. I would refer to our General Counsel.
Mr. Biesecker.
Thank you, Madam President. A couple of things. Under state law, the budget has to be into DLGF by November 1st. So this is the 2018 budget. So this is the last council meeting for adopting the 2018 budget. So as to the Councilor McQuillan's comment that we can reappropriate it in the next couple of months, we can't. And second, although I just got this proposed amendment late this afternoon, I would think that there would be serious issues with zeroing out the budget of a constitutional officer, as well as the sheriff also has some specific important duties laid out in the consolidation statute. So I think for those reasons it would be legally problematic at best.
Thank you, Mr. Biesecker. Councilor Miller, then Councilor McQuillan.
I've clearly been out of town a couple days. I was not aware of an audit until moments ago. Can we get a better understanding, since we will be discussing and voting on a budget for an office that we're now having an audit on? Is there someone from the administration that could explain when this audit is happening, why this audit is happening, and how we as counselors should be looking at a budget for a department that's about to be audited?
I believe I saw the mayor's chief of staff in the audience, if he would like to step forward.
Thank you, Madam President. Thomas Cook. I'm Mayor Joe Hogsett's chief of staff. I'll actually, with permission of the council, probably defer to the logistics of this to the city county controller, because I know he's been more intimately involved, but I know this has been a topic that has been discussed in a number of committee meetings by a number of councilors, specifically as it relates to the sheriff's conversations about transferring certain public safety functions that they currently do back toward IMPD. And I know this is something that is logistically complicated enough that we weren't able to complete an analysis of the most effective and efficient way to do that within this budget conversation due to the deadlines that Councilor Biesecker pointed out in terms of when we had to get the budget to DLGF. And so our intention all along had been to complete that analysis and then come back to this council with a standalone proposal for an up and down vote on how those functions should be transferred and how the dollars associated with them would also be transferred. As a result of a lot of suggestions and productive conversations with specific counselors and with the sheriff's office coming to the table and suggesting that they were happy to go through an effort that would make a more fulsome analysis of all of their operations and specifically look at all functions that they're currently undertaking and ways that we could be more efficient and effective with those tax dollars. We've been happy earlier today, and I understand that's relatively late notice, to come to agreement that that audit and that analysis would move forward in the coming weeks and months. And it's obviously a process that we fully intend to produce work product that the fiscal body could then consider in anticipation of a standalone proposal on the sheriff's functions and how they might be shifted to IMPD. So if I've misstated or understated or overstated any of that, I'll defer to Controller Kadora, as he often does, to correct me. But that's a basic summation of what was announced earlier today.
So just for clarification, did the mayor request the audit? I'm somewhat confused about who actually requested the audit.
You know, I'm not actually certain who the original requester was, although I know that it's been discussed at a number of councilor committee meetings over the last few months, and obviously that has had the sheriff thinking about the best and most effective way to move forward with this. And so the sheriff came to us earlier today and suggested that it would be probably a productive thing to add to tonight's discussion that he was requesting this audit move forward. And so after the sheriff released that statement and notified us of that earlier today, we offered our full support of that process, especially as it relates to producing work product that the council can consider over the next few months in anticipation of a standalone proposal that would allow you to vote on any movement of funds associated with those functions transferring back to IMPD.
Thank you. Mr. Controller, do you have anything to add?
Madam President, respected councilors, logistically how that would work, OFM, the Office of Finance and Management, will work with the Office of Audit and Performance, OAP, under Director Hope Tribble. This is a joint initiative between OFM, OAP, and the Sheriff's Office.
Thank you. Councilor Miller?
Oh, thank you, Madam President. So, yeah, so I guess what I heard was the administration did not initiate this. Does the administration have any concerns or anything you would like us to be considering at this point? Because for the record, I wasn't at all the meetings, but I followed along. Yes, members of this body have asked repeatedly about these concerns. And I do understand it is the sheriff's budget, but it all falls under the Unigov budget, which you helped put together. Is the mayor's office saying there are any concerns? Is there anything you would like us to consider tonight as we are looking at this budget? I mean, I know we have personal concerns. I'm just trying to understand the administration's position on this. Again, this is all news to me of an hour ago. So, thank you, Madam President.
Yes, sir. Yep.
No, that's a great question. As the council knows, this was not, the shifting of these public safety functions was not anticipated in the budget that we submitted to the council back in August. It was a suggestion that developed simultaneous to that budget introduction. And as a result of that, we didn't want to attempt to throw a proposal together to shift those functions and force this council to make a decision in a haphazard way. And so that originally started as a request that we would simply go and amend the budget early next year with a standalone proposal. What evolved out of that, as I understand it, in committee meetings and in conversations with the sheriff and with our office and with many of you, was a request to have a more holistic look at what all of these functions mean for the taxpayers, what they mean in terms of public safety. And we're very pleased that the sheriff, the mayor's office, and the Office of Audit and Performance are going to be coordinating on that. In direct response to your question, there's nothing with tonight's proposal that we believe needs to be amended that would affect in any way our ability to do that audit, come back with recommendations to the council, and then have a standalone proposal after the first of the year when we can amend the 2018 budget.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Councilor McHenry, then Councilor, I'm
You owe
sorry,
me.
Councilor McQuillan, then Councilor McHenry.
Thanks. The dueling MCs. Thank you, Madam President. As we always like to say, I'm not an attorney, I just play one on TV, but I did want to comment on Councilor Biesecker's opinion. You are correct, the state statute on passing a municipal budget does require that the budget is passed by a certain date. It doesn't require what that dollar amount is for any agency. So whether it's $50 million or $0, that doesn't put this motion in violation of state law, in my opinion. It doesn't change the levies of this budget at all. With regard to the sheriff running out of money, which would be a concern, and that was one of my concerns when we first put this idea together, nothing changes the rest of this year. It just basically buys this body a couple more months to hopefully find the results of this independent audit and determine the direction of where the money in that budget for the sheriff in 2018 should go. Thank you.
Councilor McHenry, then Chairman Simpson.
Thank you, Madam President. Just out of curiosity, and I don't know whether this should be directed to the controller or, I guess to the controller, if we would pass the budget with this sheriff's portion just like it is, and we know that there are certain things that he is no longer doing that is figured in this budget, and he gets this amount of money, what would force him into giving back the portion of the budget that we really need to run these other operations, and to cut his budget, then, or what would keep, or could he go ahead and keep this same amount of money and spend it for something else that he would see fit? And then we're in a position where we can't fund the operations that are going to be taken over by other departments.
Mr. Brown?
Thank you, Madam President. So the council, being the fiscal body, has the ability to appropriate and also reduce appropriations. So after this, the audit of the functions that we're discussing is completed, and it's determined that the sheriff does have funds that can be shifted, the council can introduce a proposal in January and then shift those, that income plus appropriations to IMPD or any other agency.
Even though this is a constitutional office?
Yes. So what Mr. Biesecker said is, and I agree with him, that a fiscal body cannot defund entirely a constitutional office. I think there's case law out there. Now, we have the ability to approve a budget we think is prudent, but to defund it 100%, I think, is very problematic. But again, if you approve the budget as is, the council has a right to go back in January and for the next 12 months to amend that budget however you see fit.
Chairman Simpson?
Thank you, Madam President. I want to remind folks last year when the Office of Audit and Performance, Hope Tribble, I requested an audit of IMPD before last year's budget. Is that right, Bart? We had it before because we wanted to make sure, and Chief Riggs was very much in favor of it, similar to what the sheriff is saying, because he wanted to know, everybody wanted to know. But I think that when the audit was done, what we realized is that the IMPD budget, they were spending appropriately according to the budget, and there was nothing extraordinary about their budget. And I see this as the same thing. It wasn't brought before the council or anything. It was a situation in which Chief Riggs wanted to do this audit, and I agreed to assist him with that. And it came to fruition that they were spending their money appropriate the way that they said they were going to spend it. And so I think this is a situation the same as the sheriff. He's willing to do it. We should allow him to do it, and because they're a big operation. I mean, IMPD is $2.5 million budget, and I was proud to see that the end result was a good result. So thank you.
Councilor Fanning?
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to ask Controller Fedora how long he's expecting the audit to take, and I just wanted to clarify for the public and obtain clarification if I'm incorrect in my assumption that this amendment would not defund the Sheriff's Department. It would simply delay funding of the Sheriff's Department until we have more additional information from the audit.
Mr. Brown?
This amendment defunds the Sheriff's Department. There will be absolutely no appropriations going in January, and he would have to shut down operations if this was adopted on January 1st.
But we can, according to state statute, we can fund it at a later time, according to what Councilor McQuillan said.
Once this budget is adopted tonight, if it's adopted tonight, then there will be no more meetings before November 1st. It'll be submitted to DLGF, and we cannot amend the budget until after January, our first meeting in January.
Councilor McQuillan.
I would like to point out the president would have the prerogative to call a meeting if necessary, so it's not now or never. Thank you.
Call an extra meeting specifically for this portion of the budget. Is that what you're suggesting?
I'm saying the president has the power to do that if that's what the body decides they want to do. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but that there is that possibility.
So just for clarification, this motion will zero out the sheriff's budget. Councilor Kreider.
Thank you, Madam President. A couple questions, I think, for the controller. First, I don't think Councilor Fanning's question was answered. I had the same question on how long this process for review and analysis was anticipated to take. And within that review and analysis, I wanted to ask whether the commissary fund was going to be part of that review, and then what you're contemplating, basically what a chargeback, how that transfer would be handled for next year.
You want the controller to respond to that? Or do you want to take a
Well,
stab at it,
Mr. Brown or the controller, but I don't believe the
Councilor
question's been
Kreider.
answered yet.
Again, Mr. Brown or the controller,
I'll
which
answer
one
the
do you want?
second.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Madam President. The second piece is, again, what would probably work best, we'd work with the controller as we reduce the sheriff's budget by the amount that the audit would call for, and then move probably income tax, because that's the one revenue that's fungible across all funds, and move that into the IMPD, whatever agency that is determined that needs the money to carry on the functions, and then increase those appropriations after January 1st.
Mr. Controller, if you would step back up to the podium.
Thank you, Madam President. In response to the first question, as it relates to the time frame, the administration and the Sheriff's Office and OP are interested in getting the audit completed as soon as possible. I can't provide a timeline. Normally, audits take a few months, so definitely will be sometimes in 2018.
Councilor Kreider.
And the commissary fund, was that going to be part of that thorough review and analysis that you're doing?
The scope of the audit will be comprehensive of all functions and funds within the Sheriff's Office. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. It just doesn't make sense to me why we would require ourselves to have an extra meeting regardless of what the yield is of the audit, when we're going to have to come back and visit this in January or whenever the audit is finished. We can always move those funds back after the fact, but we can't do it beforehand. So it doesn't make sense.
Mr. Biesicker.
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, let me just be clear about the timeline here. DLGF and state law require that we get them the budget for the entire political subdivision by November 1st. That means not only does the council have to pass it, but there has to be sufficient time for the mayor to review it and approve it or veto parts of it. And if he does veto parts of it, there has to be time for the council to come back and override the veto. And as the controller just said, there's obviously no way that the audit is going to be completed in sufficient time to do anything by November 1st. So if this amendment were to be adopted and if the budget were to pass as with this amendment, what would get presented to DLGF is the budget for the sheriff's office for 2018 of zero. And that has obvious problems given the sheriff's constitutional status and the statute that specifically says, notwithstanding any other law, the sheriff controls county jail operations and facilities, emergency communications, and several other things.
Thank you, Mr. Biesicker. Councilor McQuillan.
Thank you, Madam President. I don't want to get everyone's holiday calendars in a mess here. I think a good conversation just took place on some of our concerns. I'm excited to hear that this audit is going to take place. And I'm hopeful that we as a body will be able to take those pieces once they're given to us in early 2018, and we'll have the ability, as has been explained by council, to adjust dollars accordingly. So having said that, I will withdraw the amendment.
Thank you. Additional comments regarding the budget. Councilor Jackson.
Thank you, Madam President. I have an amendment for Proposal 225 as well. May I?
Yes, ma'am.
Madam President, In order to permit some counselors with personal interest in portions of proposal number 225, 2017 to abstain on those portions, I move to divide the question on the adoption of that proposal as follows. Question 1, the appropriations for crime prevention grants set forth section 4.01D of proposal number 225, 2017. Question 2, the balance of the proposal number 225, 2017. I so move, Madam President.
So the motion's been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Oh, same sign? Okay. Say aye, sorry. The board's actually working now, so I forgot that. Sorry. So you can go to the board. I apologize. We're dividing the question for those who have some conflict. Counselor Holliday? There we go. The motion carries. Motion, Counselor Oliver? Yeah. Okay. We're gonna get this right today. All right, let's try it one more time. Chairman Robinson, one more time. Here we go. Motion carries 23-0. So additional comments on the budget? We'll now vote on the budget. The board is open. No, it's not. Do I have to do a crime prevention first? Why do I have to do it first? You're doing the question one and then the balance. Okay, so we're now voting on crime prevention. Is the board open, Madam Clerk? Okay. Yeah, and Counselor Jackson will not be voting. And what else? We're gonna get this together today. Okay. The proposal carries 22-0. And now we'll vote on the remaining portion of the budget. The board's open. And the proposal carries 21-2. Counselor Feaster.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to take a moment to explain my vote because I was a no in committee because I've raised concerns for several meetings in a row, actually, and never really got clarified answers to those questions about revenues being higher than they should be, that logic said to me that they should be, and underfunding of certain portions of the budget. And I noticed that on the introduction of the proposals, there are 5 proposals that will be before public safety at the next public safety meeting with agencies that have gone on record that said they do not have the funding for this year and will not have the funding for next year to cover their needs. And that was the reason for my no vote. I struggled about it and got a lot of advice, and as a result, I'm voting yes tonight with the reservation that I will be looking closely at this budget in 2018 because I really do not feel that it is, I don't want to use the word structurally balanced, but that's the only word that comes to my mind. So I am a yes vote, but it is with grave reservations. Thank you.
Counselor Miller.
Thank you, Madam President. You know, this has been an interesting budget cycle for me. I do firmly believe this is one of the best budgets we've gotten. It has revenues exceeding our expenses, and that's the first time that I've been on the council and seen that. And so the vision the mayor cast, I do believe, was enacted in this budget. I'm extremely happy for our IMPD getting new recruits, but also seeing a plan for a couple years out. We were discussing this in the hallway of how nice to actually be talking not about just 2018, but 2019, 2020, so you can really plan. That's vital with what was going on with public safety in our city. To see a capital plan, not just 1 year, but 2 years, 3 years, 4 years out is fantastic. But it's been really frustrating for me as somebody whose other major was accounting, and thank God I didn't go into it because this is not accounting, but it is numbers, and I really enjoy numbers, and I enjoy digging into the numbers. And it was frustrating at the very first meeting to ask what was our structural deficit when the mayor took office, because I didn't think it was $50 million. And to immediately hear it wasn't, it was actually 33, which is completely different than the figure that had been given before the council a week and a half before. And then for the paper to ask the same question and get 38 million. And that was only the beginning of numbers just moving and fluctuating. It started to feel like we were trying to make the budget more clever than perhaps it really was. I've never on the council had a situation where we know we're going to spend money on infrastructure, $16 million in this case, and have it not be in the budget. $16 million we're going to have to appropriate in January. You know, we talk about these appropriations we have to come back and make because it's not in the budget, even though it's in our capital plan. That leaves DPW in a situation where they legitimately can't plan for that $16 million. They don't know they're going to get it. Now, we're discussing in a bipartisan fashion, a resolution that will authorize DPW to plan for that, where we're saying we will do it in January. But I don't know why we put ourselves in that situation, other than the fact that had that money been in the budget, we wouldn't be structurally balanced. As people have pointed out, it's 16 million in, 16 million out, but that's not the point. The administration is stressed. Structurally balanced means you don't use one-time funds to balance the budget. This was a one-time fund. So it certainly is convenient that it wasn't in there. Again, I feel like that's trying to get too clever with the people's money to do the people's work. I got roads in my district, and we all have roads in our districts that need to be paved. I don't take lightly when we're playing around with money for infrastructure. And I applaud our director of DPW to find a way to make this all work. And I've brought this up several times now, but if you look at some of our key reserves for our departments, IMPDs, as an example, by our budget book, started out at 4.3 million and ends the year at 1.6 million. If we were to spend it down by that rate next year, they're in the red. So to say we're structurally balanced when we leave ourselves with anemic funds, I just have to question that. So again, I applaud the mayor's vision, but if I was the mayor, I'd be a little upset at how things were given to him to present, because I think we could have presented this budget in an entirely different way, and we'd be having a different conversation. Instead, at least for me personally, this was a painful couple months. I'm asking those that prepare the numbers next time, let's not do this again. Let's just lay it all out up front. Let's figure out what we want to say, what our structural deficit is, what it isn't, what money needs to be in the budget, what doesn't. And I'm telling you, I'm going to watch like a hawk, as Councilor Feaster said, fiscal appropriations next year, every one of them, because I heard too many departments saying they're underfunded. So anyway, I am happy to vote for the budget, though, tonight, and particularly to support our IMPD, and I thank the mayor for making sure they're going to be taken care of. God bless you all for what you do every day to keep us safe. Thank you, Madam President.
Councilor Kreider.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to commend the administration on its efforts at trying to be efficient and cut costs, but I, like Councilor Feaster, had many of the same concerns about underfunding of agencies, and I have concerns about trying to do this mid-course correction next year for public safety. I am very pleased to hear that we'll be doing this full review and analysis of the Sheriff's Department, but I still have questions that remain. I'm still not quite comfortable with that process, and I'm not sure if we're underfunding other agencies. Are we underfunding public safety? Or how much of that money could go to some of these other needs? It's just not clear. I'm certainly not predisposed to additional appropriations next year outside of public safety, although I am strongly committed to public safety and all of our officers and firefighters and EMS, although this is largely a flatline budget, and I think the only one that really went up was IMPD, which we were going to have to adjust anyway. So all those concerns are why I voted no this evening.
Councilor McHenry.
Thank you, Madam President. I, too, am going to be watching very carefully. I think that, we've done well with what we have, but I do think that there's things it's underfunded. I also don't think that we have looked real seriously in case we would be in an emergency situation. Right now, we have seen disasters that have occurred throughout the southern part of our country, and we're not, where we're not prone to a hurricane here. We have had ice storms before. We have had blizzards, flooding. A tornado could come through. These could be devastating to our city, especially to our public safety aspect, taking a lot of their time, their energy, and expenses from them, and also with our public works and especially our forestry, which is, in my opinion, underfunded. So these are some of the concerns that I have, and I too will be watching very carefully on how the money is spent and what happens throughout the year.
Explain your vote. Councilor McQuillan.
Thank you, Madam President. To explain my vote, during this budget cycle, I was amazed to learn the definition of what a structurally balanced budget really was. Having said that, I, and as you've heard, many of my colleagues will be watching city-county agencies in the coming months as they appear before us asking for additional funds that were not in this structurally balanced budget. I voted yes, however, to keep the public safety officers paid, the trash being picked up, and the roads paved. Hopefully we can do better in the next budget cycle. Thank you.
Anyone else like to explain their vote? Councilor Westler.
Thank you, Madam President. I am also concerned. I am joining in with my three colleagues voting. I voted no because I want to make sure that people in my district know that I'm trying to be fiscal responsibility, that the Sheriff's Department's budget is not clear in any way, shape, nor form. There's too many people that think that this is okay, but I don't feel comfortable voting yes at this time. I would like to see it postponed, but under the constitutionalities of all this, I cannot see myself voting yes, even though there is evidence that we could vote yes and then go and come back, but there's no guarantee. I also would like to make sure that when the audit is done, it's done by an independent agency, not through the mayor's office, not through the sheriff's office, independent agency, and they report to the council on their progress during this time so we know where we are and how soon we can get things kind of buttoned up and put to bed. Thank you.
Additional comments? We'll now proceed to proposal number 246, refer to municipal corporation. Oh, this technical. Right. Vice President Adamson.
Thank you, Madam President. Because of the complexities and interrelated calculations of the budget proposals and amendments just adopted, I move that General Counsel and the Chief Financial Officer are authorized, with the concurrence of the Office of Finance and Management, to correct any technical or computational errors in the budget ordinances and resolutions as necessary to accurately reflect the actions of this council. I so move.
Motion been properly moved and seconded. We're going to just do a voice vote. It's just a technical cleanup on the budget. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Now we'll proceed to proposal number 246, refer to Municipal Corporation Committee. Chairman Gray.
Thank you, Madam President. The Municipal Corporation Committee of the City County Council met on Tuesday, September 26th. On our agenda was proposal number 246. 246, adopt the operation and maintenance budget and tax levy by the Indianapolis Airport Authority and establish appropriations for said municipal corporation for 2008. Chair Gray asked if there were any discussion or changes regarding Indianapolis Airport Authority, IAA, budget. Hearing none, he asked for a motion. Councilor Gray moved and second. Councilor Clay moved and second by Councilor Holliday to send proposal 246 to the full council with a due pass recommendation. The motion carried by a vote of 6-0, and I so moved.
The motion's been properly moved and seconded. Are there comments from councilors? Seeing none, proceed to the board for our vote. The proposal carries 22-0. The next item on our agenda is proposal number 247, refer to Municipal Corporation Committee. Chairman Gray.
Yes, proposal number 247 adopts the operation and maintenance budget and tax levies of the Capital Improvement Board of Managers and establish appropriations for said municipal corporations for 2018. There was no questions on the Capital Improvement Board. Therefore, Councilor McHenry moved, second by Councilor Mascarity, to send proposal 247, 2017 to the full council with a due pass recommendation, and I so move.
The motion has been properly moved and seconded. Are there comments from councilors? Seeing none, proceed to the board for our vote. The proposal carries 22-0. The next item on our agenda is proposal number 248, referred to Municipal Corporation Committee. Chairman Gray.
Yes, proposal number 248 adopts an operation and maintenance budget and tax levies of the Health and Hospital Corporation and establish appropriations for said municipal corporations for 2018. There was no questions, no concerns about the Health and Hospital budget. Councilor Clay moves, second by Councilor Evans, to send proposal 248 to the full council with a due pass recommendation. I so move.
The motion has been properly moved and seconded. Are there comments from councilors? Councilor Miller.
Thank you, Madam President. I brought this up during the DBNS, Department of Business and Neighborhood Services hearing, and it affects the Health and Hospital, particularly Health Department. They are moving, the Health Department is moving off of Acela, at least the city's instance of Acela, to create their own. Acela is what they use to track all of the health code violations that are so important to all of us in our districts, such as high weeds, trash, abandoned home that needs to be boarded, et cetera. It is certainly their right to do it, but I want to make sure that we have an interface in place afterwards between their data and the city's data, because the city, not just DBNS, but across the board, and as well as our CDCs, our community development centers, et cetera, heavily rely on that information because it lets us understand the health of a home, you know, whether it's in violation, whether it's not, as well as occupied homes and what violations there are. So I'm understanding from talking to ISA that that interface will happen, and from talking to the controller that night that there is money in the budget in both Health and Hospital and in the city to make it happen. But I just, for all of our sake, this is critical to our districts, so we all need to keep an eye on that and to make sure that the open data is shared once the systems are no longer working together. Thank you, Madam President.
Additional comments? Councilors, my husband works at Health and Hospital, therefore I will not cast a vote on proposal number 248. The board is now open. The proposal carries 21-0. The next item on our agenda is proposal number 249, refer to Municipal Corporation. Chairman Gray.
Proposal 249 adopts the operating and maintenance budgets and tax levies of the Indianapolis Marion County Library and establish appropriations for said municipal corporations for 2018. Councilor Gray asked if there was any discussion or changes regarding the Marion County Public Library. Jackie Needis, the Chief Executive Officer, stated they have no changes to their budget. Councilor McHenry moved, and second by Councilor McScurry, to send 249 to the full council with a due pass recommendation on a vote of 6-0, and I so move.
The motion has been properly moved and seconded. Are there comments from councilors? Seeing none, we'll proceed to the board for our vote. The proposal carries 22-0. The next item on our agenda is proposal number 250, refer to Municipal Corporation Committee. Chairman Gray.
Yes, on proposal 250, we did have an amendment to this proposal. Proposal number 250 adopts the operation and maintenance budget for the tax levy of the Indianapolis Public Transportation Corporation, known as Indigo, and establish appropriation for the said municipal corporations for 2008. Councilor Evans moved, second by Councilor Holliday, to amend proposal 250, 2017. think that we was going to amend this on the floor. Is there a motion to amend proposal 215?
Madam President, may I? Yes. This proposal is being offered, amendment on behalf of Councilor Clay, who could not be here tonight, Madam Chair. I move to amend proposal number 250, 2017 by adding a new section 8 and renumbering the current section 8, which was previously amended in committee as section 9 to read as follows. Section 8 on or before March 31st, June 30th, September 30th, and December 31st of 2018, the Indianapolis Public Transportation Corporation shall submit a final report to the Municipal Corporations Committee of the City County Council. The reports shall cover the preceding calendar quarter and shall include at a minimum the following information with respect to the Red Line project: actual revenue and expenditures by specific fund and vendor, identification of all vendors and the amount of their respective contracts, projected revenue and expenditures for the succeeding calendar quarter, and explanation of any material variances from the original project schedule and budget, and the amount of revenue raised or pledged from non-tax sources. Section 9 shall read, this ordinance shall be in full force and effect beginning January 1st, 2018, after passage by the City County Council. Madam President, I so move.
The motion has been properly moved and seconded. Are there questions regarding the amendment? Councilman McQuillan.
Thank you, Madam President. Reaching back to when I was on Muni-Corps a long time ago, I thought they already were required to give us quarterly updates on everything that was going on. What's different about this, other than just the verbiage about the red line? Is it specifically a little extra something we want to hear about the red line more often, or what's the purpose here?
Sicker or Mr. Brown?
Thank you, Madam President. Indigo, I don't believe there is any existing quarterly update requirement for Indigo. There is for DPW. But Councilor Clay brought this up at the Municipal Corporations meeting because given that 2018 is the first year when Indigo will be getting the money from the new transit tax, and that he wanted to make sure that the council got adequate sort of real-time reporting on what was happening financially with the, in particular with the construction of the Red Line project. So I believe his intent, I don't mean, he's not here, and I don't mean to be speaking for him, but my recollection of what he said at the committee was that because of the significant amount of money, not just the transit tax money, but the federal grant money and so forth that Indigo will be spending next year, that we wanted to make sure that the council had frequent reporting and oversight of what they were doing.
Additional questions, comments regarding the amendment? We'll now go to the board for a vote on the amendment. The amendment carries 22-0. Mr. Chairman?
Yes. After a long discussion about the amendment, we finally, Councilor Clay moved and second by Councilor Mascara to send proposal 250, 2017 to the full council with a due pass, and the motion carried by 6-0. I so move.
Second. Additional comments on the proposal as amended? Seeing none, proceed to the board for our vote.
That concludes my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The proposal carries 21 to, nope, am I missing someone? Mr. Chairman Robinson? Thank you. The proposal carries 22-0. The next item on our agenda is proposal number 251, refer to Public Works Committee. Chairman Adamson.
Thank you, Madam President. With consent, I'd like to take the next six proposals together. Thank you. Proposal number 251 authorizes turn restrictions at the intersection of Massachusetts Avenue and 10th Street in District 17. Proposal number 252 authorizes intersection controls at Temple Avenue and 28th Street in District 17. Proposal number 253 authorizes parking restrictions on Wabash Street between East Street and College Avenue in District 17. Proposal number 254 authorizes weight limit restrictions on the area bounded by 10th Street, Fall Creek Parkway, 16th Street, and MLK Jr. Street in District 11. Proposal number 255 authorizes parking restrictions on Ritter Avenue from 10th Street to 17th Street in District 12. And proposal number 256 authorizes parking restrictions on New York Street and Michigan Streets in District 12 and 17. Councilor McHenry asked if all the councilors whose districts these affect are on board, and Mr. Sheets answered in the affirmative. Councilor McHenry moves, seconded by Councilor Gray, to send proposals 251 through 256 to the full council with a due pass recommendation. That motion carried by a vote of 7-0, and I so move.
The motion has been properly moved and seconded. Are there comments from councilors? Seeing none, we'll proceed to the board for our vote. Chairman Gray. The proposals carry 22-0. The next item on our agenda is proposal number 268, refer to Admin and Finance Committee. Chairman Simpson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Proposal 268, approve request of the Department of Public Work to purchase certain real estate interests for construction of a public work project. The proposal was heard in the committee on Tuesday, October the 3rd. By statute, any land purchase value over $25,000 must receive approval from the local fiscal body, in this case, the council. The property is owned, is private property, and the purchase of the land is needed for widening the intersection at Franklin and Southport Road. It came out of committee 8-0. I so move.
The motion has been properly moved and seconded. Are there comments from councilors? Seeing none, we'll proceed to the board for our vote. The proposal carries 22-0. The next item on our agenda is proposal number 269, refer to Public Works Committee. Vice President Adamson.
Thank you, Madam President. With consent, I'd like to take the next 4 proposals together. Thank you. Proposal number 269 authorizes intersection controls at Talbot Street at 17th and 21st Streets in District 11. Proposal number 270 authorizes a speed limit reduction in the Mayfair Village subdivision in District 18. Proposal number 271 authorizes intersection controls at Morris Street and Vandalia Avenue in District 22. Proposal number 272 authorizes alteration of parking restrictions along 30th Street from Meridian Street to Central Avenue in Districts 9 and 11. Councilor McHenry moved, seconded by Councilor Oliver, to send proposals 269 through 272 to the full council with a due pass recommendation, and that motion was carried by a vote of 7-0.
The motion has been properly moved and seconded. Are there comments from councilors? Seeing none, we'll proceed to the board for our vote. The proposals carry 22-0. The next item on our agenda is Special Service District Council, Police Special Service District, proposal number 222, refer to Public Safety and Criminal Justice Committee. Chairman Robinson.
Thank you, Madam President. Can I take these 2 with consent or not? These are a little different. Can I? Okay, never mind. Thank you. Proposal number 222, 2017, approves the tax levy and rate for the Police Special Service District of 2018. Proposal passed out of committee 9-0. Madam President, I so move.
The motion has been properly moved and seconded. Are there comments from councilors? Seeing none, we'll proceed to the board for our vote. The proposal carries 22-0. The next item on our agenda is proposal number 223, refer to Public Safety and Criminal Justice Committee. Chairman Robinson.
Thank you, Madam President. Proposal 223, 2017, approves a tax levy and rate for the Fire Special Service District 2018. The proposal passed out of committee by a vote of 9-0. Madam President, I so move.
The motion has been properly moved and seconded. Are there comments from councilors? Seeing none, proceed to the board for our vote. The proposal carries 22-0. The next item on our agenda is proposal number 224, refer to Public Works Committee. Vice President Adamson.
Thank you, Madam President. Proposal 224 approves the tax levy and the rate for Solid Waste Collection Special Service District for 2018. Councilor Gray moves, seconded by Councilor Ostley, to send proposal number 224 to the full council with a due pass recommendation. That motion carried by a vote of 7-0, and I so move.
The motion has been properly moved and seconded. Are there comments from councilors? Seeing none, we'll proceed to the board for our votes. The proposal carries 22-0. The next item on the agenda is new business. Seeing none, we'll proceed.
Madam President.
We'll proceed to announcements and adjournments. Chairman Simpson.
Thank you. I want us to say a prayer for our colleague, Frank Muscari's wife. She's pretty ill, and I think we need to, that's why he had to leave early, that we keep him in prayer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Vice President Adamson.
Thank you, Madam President. I have a few announcements from the community. On Saturday, October 12th, from 12 to 3, is the grand opening to the new Center for Black Literature and Culture at the Indianapolis Public Library. Then, that same night, Cottage Home neighborhood will have their block party Saturday night at the intersections of St. Clair and Dorman. The following Saturday, on October 14th, Friends of Douglas Park will be having a jazz dance and dinner at Douglas Park Community Center. And on 10/21, the Windsor Park neighborhood will host their block party from 4 to 11 at 1429 Brookside Avenue. Thank you.
Additional announcements? Counselors, I do want to take this opportunity to say thank you for your hard work and your commitment to diving into the budget over the last 8 weeks. So thank you, thank you, thank you. The docket agenda for this meeting of the council having been completed, the chair will now entertain motions for adjournment.
Madam President.
Chair recognizes Councilor McQuillan.
Thank you, Madam President. I've been asked to offer the following motion for adjournment. By all councilors in memory of the Honorable Mark Douglas Batiste III. By Councilor Ostley, in memory of Henry W. Cruz and Martine Wheeler. By Councilor Lewis, in memory of Jane Patricia Zeck. By Councilor McQuillan, in memory of Keith Williams, Jarella Francis Powell, Jerome Francis Jerry Mobley, and Michael Anthony Tony Ferguson. By Councilor Miller, in memory of John Mance Calloway. By Councilors Kreider and Wessler, in memory of Megan Woodward. By Councilor Feaster, in memory of Hilda Torella. Madam President, I would like to move the adjournment of this meeting of the Indianapolis City County Council in recognition of and respect for the life and contributions of those persons I've here specifically named. I respectfully ask the support of fellow councilors. I further request that the motion be made a part of the permanent record of this body and that a letter bearing the council seal and the signature of the president be sent to the family of each person advising of this action.
Thank you, Councilor McQuillan. Hearing no objections, the motion is received and the requests are so ordered. Hearing no further motions, we are adjourned.